All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jari, Salomaa. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Valo.ai. I'm here joined by Suvi Saarnilaakso. Really excited. Pleasure to have you, Suvi.
Nice to see you again. Actually, we've met with Jari on multiple occasions all around the world. So first Dreamforce, then Helsinki, and now Espoo.
Yes, all around the world.
Small ecosystem. And I'm extremely happy to be here. So nice of you to invite me.
Of course, wonderful to host you. So as a startup founder and building a solution in the Salesforce ecosystem, in this series we invite Salesforce experts, ecosystem insiders, thought leaders to share their story, how they ended up in this ecosystem. So Suvi, would you introduce yourself to the audience a little bit? Who are you? Who is Suvi? What do you do? And then how did you end up working in this ecosystem?
Yes. Well, my story of ending up in this ecosystem, it's quite typical. So I'm the accidental admin at first. However, I do have a background in Salesforce already. So I was in sales for over 20 years, and I have worked for Salesforce in sales, specifically in Dublin. And there, the organization was a lot smaller back in the day. It was 2009, 2010. Salesforce only had 3,000 employees, so it was way smaller than it is now. And we didn't have an SE for Finland. We didn't have a partner in Finland also. So basically, what had to be done was that I, as the account executive, whenever customers wanted to see, well, how do you really low code, no code? I had to do it myself. For the bigger countries, let's say Germany, Great Britain, the story is quite different. So they didn't do that themselves, but I had to, and I have to say I fell in love with it.
Learning by doing.
I fell in love with it. So it was fun because whenever I had a demo, and quite often the most typical demand back then, because I was supporting small and scaling up SMBs mainly. So they wanted to do an ad hoc report on something. How are we doing today? And I always did the same thing. I took their requirements on the call. The whole purpose was to do it quickly on the call so they understand that you don't need to figure out for days what is it that you want, because you can a bit play around with it also, even the sales directors. So I asked what you want to see in the report. I built the report, and then I built the dashboard on the fly in 5 minutes. They said, wow. And then quite often I heard myself say wow also, which was fun. But I just loved it because I had been in IT sales for years and years, but I always felt a bit sad when I had to give the project to the delivery team. Because the customers were doing so awesome things with their websites or CRMs, and I was always like, yeah, but I want to be a part of it. But I was so heavily still stuck in the sales mindset. It's kind of it's not identity, but my work identity was heavily still on sales. So it took a few tries to get to this side where I am at now. So I'm a Salesforce consultant, and I've been with the same super big organization for 7 years now. And as said, I started as an accidental admin because this is mind-boggling. This doesn't happen today, well, at least not for me, but back in the day, Salesforce was the thing. So Finland, I supported Finland, Sweden, and Iceland, surprisingly.
Oh.
Yes, I did the first sale to Iceland, actually, from Dublin office. Hey.
Wow. Go Iceland.
Yes. So back then, low code, no code, of course the IT guys had heard of it, but it wasn't a thing. So when I sold the Salesforce solution, these super sexy, cool startups, they actually then called me back after they had implemented it. That, well, why don't you work for us? We want to implement how you do the sales, but we also want to implement the Salesforce best practices that you do. And that's how I ended up back to Finland quite quickly, because who doesn't want to work for a startup? Everybody wants to do it. So once I had the chance, I did it. And so I was also the salesperson for their products, but also I was the admin, and I just loved it. But still, the identity was so heavily on the sales side that it took a few sort of peculiar happenings that I finally got the courage to do what I wanted to do for a long period of time once I figured it out. Mm-hmm. So, and then I did the admin course with Saranen Academy, actually.
All right.
Yes, but that was 7 years ago. They haven't run that in a while, I don't think. But life is quite peculiar. I'm running a similar kind of program here in Finland now called Blue Road Salesforce Academy. It's for newcomers to Finland. And it's powered by my employer company. And we train 20 newcomers to Finland with Salesforce skills. And I think there's a demand now because we haven't had those upskilling programs for Salesforce in quite a few years now. Mm-hmm. But I sense that the business is going to pick up.
That's wonderful.
That was a super long answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's very exciting, Suvi. And so I also hear that you're quite involved in the local community.
Yes.
Not only Salesforce community, but you're a very active community person. Do you mind telling the audience about your involvement with the different communities?
Yes, exactly. So all of this started already back in Salesforce because back in the day, way before COVID, 15 years ago, they still sent us, even from Salesforce Dublin office, to get onboarded in San Francisco, and we did. And the small Suvi from Pirkkala, next to Tampere, would have never thought that they would be cooking and preparing food for the homeless in San Francisco one day, paid by their employer company. So, because Salesforce has this pledge where
1-1-1 model.
Exactly. You probably remember it better.
Yes.
But it has kept with me all through the times, and my current employer has a similarist program. We do a lot of pro bono technical consulting work for UNICEF, Red Cross, and similar. So once I got a whiff of that program, I'm continuing the same here, because especially in this Blue Road Academy program, these newcomers, they especially need the work experience in Finland. They already have the IT background. Some of them have 20 certs, but because you just arrive in a country, you don't have a network, it takes a while to build sort of a reputation, and who knows you, can I call Jari and ask, who is this Suvi guy, do you know this, are they legit? So we are building them opportunities inside the ecosystem. The whole Salesforce ecosystem is in this program. Mm-hmm. And right now, we are building a non-profit MVP together with the students. So they will get their hands-on experience also with Salesforce. And this is just beautiful. And that's sort of my passion at the moment. However, I'm still super passionate about Salesforce and getting architect certified.
That's exciting. That's really great. Yeah, I been originally born in Finland, but living nearly 20 years in San Francisco. Of course, in America and Northern Europe have different social networks around individuals, and the homelessness and just poverty and things are very difficult to see. And I think Salesforce has been one of those companies that has really connected with a variety of stakeholders, not just their shareholders, but their surrounding communities, the people who live around the company. And I think whether it's social economic justice or diversity and LGBTQ rights or environment, I think there's a lot of different programs within the Salesforce community to connect with different projects and finding something that is maybe more deeper and meaningful for the participants. And I'm really excited about this reskilling also, and I would like to maybe double click on that. Now we know that Agentforce was launched last year. There's quite a bit of concern, like what is AI doing to our jobs? It's I think some have expressed, concern that the AI is taking the job. I think right now we're seeing that a lot of the AI tools, they make you go faster, rather than walking, you're running, you're sprinting, they give you speed and maybe accuracy. But what are your thoughts, Suvi, on the is AI here taking our jobs? What are your concerns or your opportunities?
Well, I'm from the generation who thought that Terminator 2 was the thing. And so in some ways, I was kind of prepared. I've been waiting for this for a long time. And now that I see it, I'm a bit frustrated because it's definitely a helper. I think, just as you said, it's going to speed things up. And especially if we think about sort of the learning curve, if we especially talk about these low-code, no-code platforms, is that it's going to speed up that process. So, because coding is a specific skill that we don't teach in the Blue Road Academy. It's just point and click declarative designing that we do there. But now with the people who already have the skills coming back from their previous experiences in their native countries, is that some of them actually have coded, some of them want to become coders and exceeding their capability to ramp up super fast. So I don't think AI is going to take over our jobs. It's going to enhance it. It's going to take out the sort of the drafting phase.
Will help with the planning.
Exactly, because whenever I create a blog post or an event invite or try to come up with a engaging ideas on how to, let's say, what kind of team events we should have or whatever, I always go to AI first because it's helping me to ideate. And especially because it doesn't know me. There's always, when you interact with a person who knows you, you typically go to your friend. But they always have the limited view because they see you from some angle. AI doesn't have that. So sometimes they throw something ridiculous, but sometimes it's like exactly the thing that you need. So I think it's a super, super personal assistant. And even, once I get the architect cert, I'm going to start doing programming also with the help of AI. Let's see where I can get with that.
That's very exciting. You're full of surprises and as we move forward in our careers, it's always sometimes challenging for us humans to put ourselves in a challenging position to learn new skills and make ourselves uncomfortable. So kudos to you for doing that.
I've always wanted to do that, but now that I have quite a few certs and I'm almost certified as the application architect, I'm like, if not now, then when?
Right.
It's going to take a while to study it, but I'm so curious. I really want to know the bells and whistles and what's under the hood. I want to sort of be able to grasp the whole platform of Salesforce. Nobody, now I'm talking to my newcomer friends at Blue Road specifically, nobody is able to know everything about Salesforce, especially with the new industry clouds. They are so specific business-wise, but if you understand the platform basics, you just build on top of that when you discuss with the customers and do the implementations with different customers.
I've been mentioning in earlier episodes also and quite publicly using this, that I think Salesforce has more than 3,000 setup pages. It has started to become a platform that has everything, but that's also the opportunity and the challenge.
Exactly.
Because there's quite a lot. So let's dive into the little bit technical side of the conversation and bring up like one of the Valo product that we're building helps organizations to understand access to Salesforce. Now Salesforce was built by humans for humans, point and click. They introduced apps in 2006, which introduced more programmatic functions and and API first solutions. But now in 2024 with Agentforce, they are kind of like completely reinventing how Salesforce can be used. Now, key thing, whether you're a human user, Suvi is connecting her apps, DocuSign, digital signatures, using data loader, Workbench, whatever, through her account, or now is giving AI access to her account. We've talked to many customers who see that the guardrails and way of like managing end users accessing Salesforce is even more important than before. And it's an area where many organizations have taken quite a liberal approach and given users very wide permissions because they don't want them to come back and ask questions. How do I do this? And can you give me this? So they give them more access than they really need. And then often they might have many apps connecting through the single integration user account. Now it's very difficult to say and separate that what is actually the human Suvi or Suvi's app or and so forth. So there's all of these kinds of challenges of the complexity in Salesforce. So have you bumped into these kinds of problems, and do you have any advice or approaches that have worked for you when working with Salesforce customers related to the access?
Yes, absolutely. Everything that you just mentioned resonates.
Mm-hmm.
I see this a lot. So either they have too many licenses going on all the time, or maybe they have forecasted too low consumption of the licenses. But the most concerning is that the lack of documentation. This is something that I preach. My students will know all the time that I'm trying to teach them to document from the very beginning, because then it doesn't feel like a daunting task after you have implemented. It's sometimes hard to even remember how did you end up designing the system as you did afterwards. So do it while you go. It's like there's kind of this ambition of building things, I think, in Finland, especially when it comes to admin and consultant. So you are being not necessarily remunerated, but recognized on what you built. Look, I created this app. Look, I made this new function. Look, I changed the page layout. Now it has this fantastic button. Because that's what the business users, or especially the managers or the higher-uppers are asking. Nobody is asking you to be compliant. Well, it is there, of course, ingrained in the admin role, but nobody's giving you an award for keeping the gate secure, so to say.
Right.
So I think we should sort of enhance or even sexify the role of the admin a bit. Why do we even call them the admin? I would call them the business, Salesforce business specialist or whatever anybody likes. But
they keep the business systems secure. They keep the business systems running.
Exactly. So the most concerning thing is that when I'm onboarded to a new customer as a consultant, I always ask for documentation. It rarely exists.
They haven't been to Suvi's class.
No, but then again, if you check my own personal files, it's the same thing.
So we are poor to document our practices.
Exactly.
Is that a human trait? We just don't unless we are really mandated to write the requirements and the system.
I think it's that kind of work is not appreciated enough. Same goes for testing, actually. But when I get that documentation, I get 75 emails from there. I get a Teams access, I get Google Docs, I get Wiki page, I get Excels, I get PowerPoints. So it takes me a week to understand what is happening, but those documents are not even valid anymore, actually. You figure out at some point when you have read all of them, and then you go, but when I go to the instance, it looks different. Could you please? Yeah, we changed that. But then I'm like, where's the documentation? I don't know. Or the guy left. And this is also concerning, by the way, that it seems that the length of employment seems to be decreasing, especially in Salesforce ecosystem. I see people changing jobs every 2 years now. It used to be a bit longer. And of course, this seems to be a surprise for the employer. So in a 2 weeks notice period, they typically don't document what they've been doing. And if they haven't been documenting while they were working there still, we are in a mind-boggling situation that consultant needs to go in and try to understand, reading and looking at the setup, how does this work?
Right.
Of course, the business users can tell, I do this and this happens and blah, 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 blah. But how was this set up? What was the design principles? Are these users valid? Who has access to what? You always need to check this. The best documentation I've seen ever was with one of my customers, but it was in Word, but it had everything, but the file was so big that the Word crashed. So my recommendation is using Wiki. It's a living document. And you can have pages and pages, but still I've never seen a customer instance where everything is nicely packaged together so that it's relevant, it's current. We know who the owners are, we know what the user profiles are, we know what are the integration users, and so on and so on.
Right.
So it's always quite a bit of lack.
What are your thoughts? So tool like Valo automatically discovers the metadata and actually creates the documentation for you?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on these kinds of admin helpers, admin tools, to do these tasks for you so that you don't have to go into the setup and dig out the information yourself?
I'd be extremely happy to see Valo in one of the customer instances. But also, it's not about only getting the consultants or the new employers on board. It's valid every day. That's the point. So it takes out the documentation thread that you don't want to do. We don't have the documentation because nobody wants to do it. You don't get prizes for having awesome documentation.
That's a great point.
Yes, but it's the key is that, okay, you fix it once. Let's say that we decide that we will document everything, all right, but it needs to be living. And there comes your product into play. So you don't have to do this again and again and again and again. You have always the real-time information.
Whether you do this quarterly or once a year, twice a year, now on any day of the week, on your fingertips, you know basically what users are connected, whether they are human or not, what they're doing, and you can then basically get an automatic recommendation on what licenses or access they should have.
Exactly. And the visualization here is the key, because you can quickly pick up if something needs your attention.
Right.
This is when you have the 1,000-page Word document. How on earth will you figure out what are the risk areas there?
Right.
You won't.
And it's basically invalid maybe the next day.
Exactly.
The environment changes.
Exactly.
Let's talk about security for as a kind of like the next theme a little bit. So security is a skill. It's a kind of like a way to think about things maybe a little differently, especially if you look at the cyber criminal and they're trying to exploit your weakness. And now, of course, admins and Salesforce people in general are quite busy, but they are the gatekeepers. They keep the environment secure. And at Valo, we have a way of discovering all the apps and the users that are connected, what licenses they have and what they do. And we also provide a security score to better kind of understand what they actually are doing in your Salesforce and what they can do. And then basically calculate the risk score for that. Doing that in Salesforce itself and understanding who's really connected there, it's quite a lot of work.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on overall kind of like individuals learning more about security or using tools that then help you understand security, or maybe translate some of these things where we just might not have the time to research if a DocuSign have a recent security breach and we need to now do something about it, or if there is a unauthorized AI tool connected to Salesforce and data is now leaking in wrong place. So how maybe organizations and individuals, can become more better in security, and what are your thoughts, like, bumping into these kind of security questions when
Yes.
working with customers and or even in your own classes, like,
Yes.
do you touch these kinds of topics?
Yeah. So I have to say I'm lucky because I was taught by the best. I worked for IBM, where security was one of our top
Priorities,
values there. Yeah, absolutely. And even today, when we have the badges at work, whenever somebody is trying to come behind me, I'm asking them, "Can I see your badge?" I have had a stint at a cybersecurity company, and we did the training on social hacking specifically. And I do have to say that if I, dressed like this, would want to socially hack something, I could. Because nobody suspects the lady in the dress if I just follow you around and come behind you, come after you through the door. So people are not thinking. So even though we are in IT business and we also do security consulting, yes, you have the tools, but I think security is a mindset. Now, what you just said there earlier, what I often see is that when we go into a new customer and we check their org and the users there, it's not only about documentation, it's about best practices of naming the users, sort of with an understanding naming conventions, because it takes us sometimes hours to figure out what are these integration users. Are they in use? Are they needed? Who put them there? And what are they actually connected to? So this takes hours when you inherit an organization from your customer if they don't have the documentation. And I would be extremely happy if we could take that off, because also that sort of the visual presentation could be used as an onboarding tool. You could just tell these are the important ones, this is that, and so on. So, but then again, I'm also a bit of a Miss Marple, so I do enjoy figuring out mysteries.
The detective
exactly.
work.
So I also love it though, because that's also why I'm doing the kind of work that I'm doing, because sometimes it's a mystery. Where did this come from?
Right.
And you do need to be a bit of a Vera Stanhope to figure out what has happened and how did we end up in this situation.
Right.
But it's costly and it's not efficient. And also it can be dangerous, because when you just mentioned about the security breach, I remember I was working in a small software company here in Finland. They had an ERP product, and there was some kind of security breach that we needed to address and also send newsletters to us customers, because it did affect something on our servers, not directly the customers, but of course because the customers knew that we were using those tools, that they would be bombarding us with questions. So then that's when we, the small Finnish company, realized that, oh dear, we need to be more proactive. But the thing is that because it was not in our core, we needed to do a lot of investigation in order to even create that newsletter, because we needed to understand specifically what happened, why didn't it affect us, but how are we going to address the concerns so that we don't get bombarded, the 10 people company bombarded with hundreds of questions that we don't have the time to answer. Right. So that's when we sort of realized that we need to be more proactive. And I remember when I was driving here, I remember that in that company, that was already over 10 years ago, we were hosting our own servers. So of course we had the network management tools and everything in place. But back then we had the visualization of how the network is doing. So now when I'm thinking about Salesforce, it's mind-boggling that we haven't had that visualization before. Because when you're really busy, it's saving you time because you just have a quick look at it. And if it's red, I think it needs my attention. If it's not, then I can
Move on.
go to my development stuff.
Right. Hey, that's great insight. Hey, last question. Let's talk about budgets and costs and licenses.
Yes.
So they are, of course, the key to everything. The key to the access. You can't have any human users or apps inside Salesforce without licenses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when working with hundreds of customers this past year, we observed that there's so many different kinds of licenses, and customers are struggling to figure out what type of license they should have. And now there's also consumption-based licenses, and there's all kinds of different decisions. And we're seeing this as an emerging use case for Valo to automatically give recommendations to customers to automatically say how they should manage their Salesforce licenses. But a key question remains is that, like, many organizations do quarterly or biannual license checks, and then they negotiate with Salesforce. And Salesforce, of course, is always looking for growth, as are the consultants, you know, so everybody's interested in a way growing the business. So what can you actually do when you think about budgets and others? Have you been in scenarios where you can truly find cost savings, or are you basically endlessly reallocating money from one corner of the room to the other, or what are some of the practicalities that when working with many organizations you bumped into, Suvi?
Yes. So coming back again, the certifications, because whenever you renew a certification, you need to sort of read what are the new features, but there's always some Salesforce internal best practices attached to why did we come up with this feature, what are the benefits, and also a tidbit on how Salesforce uses it themselves. So I would say to anyone who has certified that always renew your certifications in time, because there are tiny nudges that will actually help you to do that. But how I would approach this is that I think it's probably calendarized like this maybe once a year because of the Salesforce contract models. But what companies should do is that they should do this at minimum quarterly, because situations change, companies change, their priorities change, they buy out, they sell out, they merge. And sometimes I think that sort of the owning the Salesforce admin budget is a bit lost in the organization. It either sits with the finance, or it sits with the IT, or it doesn't really sit anywhere unless there's a panic, the invoice comes, why do we have so many licenses? Or I need to onboard 5 new Salesforce consultants, we don't have enough licenses. So it seems to be a bit of a guessing game at the moment, because we try to forecast for a whole year. I don't know if that's feasible. Salesforce probably doesn't want to negotiate with you more often, but let's see what they come up with, because now they are touching their pricing model anyway.
Right.
Let's see if they become a bit more flexible. But the world is changing so much that I think you should visit every quarter, because sometimes you might have to cut off a whole complete country outside of your business due to reasons. And sometimes you probably can have a super growth in some countries for some funny reason that you didn't forecast, and then you end up in trouble. It's not enough that you have a quick call to your account exec to, can we have more licenses? Because then they want to talk to you, then they want to sell you more licenses. I understand that, but it's a dance, and then you need to get the approvals from the finance. So it's going to take a week or two, and that time could be spent delivering something in Salesforce. Exactly. So it's I don't have the perfect answer for this, but I think you should try to forecast within maybe this should sit in the IT, but the issue is that IT is not necessarily that close to businesses, and then you don't have an idea of what are their growth plans.
Right.
So you couldn't possibly give the names. But what I do see is that, as you mentioned earlier, too many people have admin rights, too many people have access to everything. In sales, I think it used to be a good thing because you could compare how am I doing compared to my colleague who is sitting right next to me. I want to do better. If they can, I can. That used to work for me at least. But now, especially when we talk about the different kind of user license, you should analyze especially well who is using what and are they actually using. I've heard and I've seen myself an implementation where Salesforce sales was supposed to use Salesforce, but they didn't. So now it's a question of how long does it take to re-onboard them? Shall we cut down the licenses, align them to somebody else? Or what's the purpose? Because if I say to the team that you have to start using by tomorrow, it's not going to happen like that. Nothing will happen license-wise. So onboarding and checking sort of the user pulse. Is it good to use? Does it benefit me? What happens if I don't use it for the sales rep? Nothing happens. Is my voice being heard? So you sort of need to get the tone of the users. Is this serving them well? Do they like it? Is it hard to use? And then adapt in order to try to boost the usage in the organization. But as you hear, I don't have the
Those are some great insights. So, like, keeping finger on the pulse and understanding the organization, I guess, is the key thing. Well, this has been a great pleasure. I think as the last question, I think the sun is starting to shine again here in Espoo. What are your summer plans? Or are you going to be in Dreamforce? Are you going to be working through the summer? Any fun activities you're going to be spending this summer?
Yes. Well, actually, I'm building an MVP to an NGO with my Blue Road Academy team, as I said. That's why I'm working already now. It's the hottest time this summer in July that we are recording this. I do gardening. So
wonderful.
I do have to say sometimes the not so nice things end up changing something in you that ends up being beautiful. So due to the COVID, where you couldn't do anything and go anywhere, I started to fantasize about a cabin. So now we have an allotment cabin, and I think there's a nice bridge towards what we have been discussing, because I have 4 cats. Actually, one of them is my partner's cat, but we take them to the allotment garden, and there's a tiny cabin there. And my partner's cat seems to be super intelligent, but they are also Dennis the Menace. So
troublemakers.
This is the only one who has escaped. And this is the only one who also does what the cats sometimes do. So yesterday I got a text from my partner with a picture of a frog in our terrace. So there's the bridge to what we've been discussing. So even if you build your garden to suit your idea of what is beautiful and fantastic, but there are still the outside or inside change makers, because actually last week a strange cat jumped into our yard and attacked our kitten. So that was an attack. See where I'm going with this. But then we had this internal part of our family disrupting the peace and quiet of the terrace by bringing the frog in. So, you need to be alert, but you also, alert, set up the guide rails and the metrics and alert and automation to check that your security layer is intact. But also you need to teach your colleagues, peers, but also your network ecosystem. How do you interact? So that you know when the not so nice behavior, then is the menace behavior is happening.
So yes, train your humans and your cats, and no frogs in Salesforce.
Exactly.
This is a wonderful. It's been wonderful to have you, Suvi. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.
And hope you have a wonderful summer, and see you soon again.
Yes.
And we'll have Suvi's LinkedIn information below in this video, as well as mine. If you have any questions, you can connect with her and follow up and ask for any follow-up questions.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. See you at Dreamforce. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.